newsletter, a crypto newsletter, with the ultimate goal of teaching you how to adopt and use Bitcoin today. If you would like to subscribe to get these weekly Bitcoin news updates, or also to receive Bitcoin education tips and tricks, please subscribe to our free newsletter at adoptbitcoin.com. That is ADOBTION, bitcoin.com. All right, great. So today's date is August 14th, 2020, and this is your weekly Bitcoin news update. So I'm going to quickly turn to the charts here and give an update on this week's news and information. Again, if you would like to see more of this content, you can find me on Twitter at Adoption, or you can head over to adoptbitcoin.com. First, we'll give a price update. Bitcoin, right now you'll see that Bitcoin is currently trading at $11,829. That's against the US dollars. We saw a break above 12,000, I believe, last week, and we've kind of been hovering under that $12,000 mark, between around 11,200, upwards of 12,000. A lot of what I've been seeing and hearing is the expectation is some further consolidation moving forward, but as everyone kind of now sees, the trend is our friend, and it looks like we are now moving back up into what could be the next bull market. Now, what is driving this? Well, one of the most recent things that we've seen over the past week has been the earnings updates from a lot of our public companies here in the United States. You'll see here that Square has done the highest amount of Bitcoin revenue to date right now. So Square did $875 million of Bitcoin revenue during Q2 2020. That was almost 3x the volume of Q1 2020, 25 times more than Q1 2018 when Bitcoin buying went live on Cash App. So Bitcoin is available for sale on the Cash App. This was a part of Jack Dorsey's move to try to really make it easy for people to buy Bitcoin, with the hope that he'd ease the on-ramping process. And you can see here, since they started Bitcoin sales last year, Q1, it's been slow, steady growth, and we just had exponential growth here in Q2 2020. A lot of that is also being driven by a lot of the current macro environment you're seeing around the world. So we all know that the Fed is now keeping this permanent inflationary monetary policy, inflating quite a bit in response of COVID-19 with unemployment here in the United States. There's also, what we're seeing now of risk of inflation in the dollar and also yield on assets. So, now we have pension funds involved, we've got the banks on board, and now the retail investors, the millennials that are trading on Robinhood, that are now using Cash App to buy Bitcoin. So we're starting to see a larger amount of buying pressure with Bitcoin, because I believe we're having this new on-ramp of not just banks, institutions, pension funds, but also Main Street investors moving from Robinhood now onto the Square app, and probably into Bitcoin further and further as we go along here. I expect that Square, Robinhood, Swan, a lot of these companies are going to do really well on being the on-ramps for the millennials and the younger generations as we enter this next bull market going forward. Some other news to talk about on what could be driving this from a geopolitical perspective are the updates that we're seeing now with China and their digital yuan. So we all know that China and Russia have been focusing on de-dollarization, de-globalization over the last year or so. This news broke July 29th, so this was a little bit of over a week ago, but it's significant enough for today's recording. You'll see here it's being reported that after years of talking about de-dollarization, it seems Russia and China have really started carrying out their threats and promises. The share of their bilateral trade in greenbacks fell to 46% in Q1. It was 90% only 4 years ago. It's a profound change. So we're seeing now China and Russia dropping their treasury bills, dropping the US dollar. at a very quick pace now. We know that they've been buying large amounts of gold. Their central banks have been buying historically the largest amounts of gold, at least in the last 100 years. And that is to prepare for de-dollarization, which they're now carrying out now. So I expect that they'll continue to remove the reliance of the US dollar and the SWIFT network. They will probably end up launching their digital yuan backed by gold, and I believe that will be the equivalent of the D-Day event for us here in the United States. That will be the ultimate test of the US dollar as a reserve currency, and probably the last test of its reserve status, because once China and Russia decide to trade in something else, a lot of the relationships they built with other nations around the world over the last 10 years, I expect that these nations will follow in their footsteps and end up using whatever currency they're trading in. So a lot of profound changes that have happened. Moving forward, as far as an institutional point of view, I know a lot of our audience are pension fund managers, a lot of institutional money backed. So backed, BAKKT, is the organization that is owned by the International Continental Exchange, ICE, which owns the New York Stock Exchange. So backed essentially is the New York Stock Exchange equivalent for crypto now. These are the folks that are they are becoming the custodials for institutional money, the big banks. So those of you that are at larger businesses, insurance companies, manufacturing companies, your pension fund managers are the ones that would be using backed as custodials. And here you'll see the backed futures trading volume has now spiked to the highest it's ever been historically. Now backed launched their platform last year, their futures platform. So it has been a slow, steady growth all the way up. But again, now you're seeing spikes in the future volumes. And this comes on the news recently that Paul Tudor Jones has allocated 2% of his overall portfolio into Bitcoin. I expect that a lot of this futures trading we're seeing right now is either coming from him and a lot of this institutional money that's probably following him behind. So I'm expecting this to increase and institutional interest to increase as time goes on. And finally, one of the last things, of course, Pomp. Gotta give him a shout out. Pomp, thanks for everything you do. Learned a lot from you, man. But the biggest news that we've had most recently in the Bitcoin market has been the fact that the Treasury Department has announced that all U.S. banking institutions in the United States can now hold crypto. This is direct from the U.S. Treasury and Steve Mnuchin. Now, this is significant news because as of 3 months ago, we know that Brian Brooks being the chief legal officer of Coinbase, was brought in by Steve Mnuchin to oversee the currency and also the U.S. banking industry. Coinbase, as many of you know, is the largest cryptocurrency exchange, one of the largest cryptocurrency exchanges in the United States. So the fact that the chief legal officer was pulled from the position there to oversee the U.S. banking industry by the Secretary of the Treasury, Steve Mnuchin, about 3 or 4 months ago, indicated to us back then that the U.S. was pushing forward and the Fed was pushing forward to create a new digital dollar to start to prepare the U.S. economy for a transition onto the blockchain. That's now being proven now that we're seeing that the Treasury Department has put out notice that all banks in the United States will offer or will have the ability to offer crypto custodial services to their clients. Now, these services, what we know so far is that they'll be in the form of private key management. So key management, and again, your private keys are what allow you to access your Bitcoin, allow you to spend your Bitcoin. That is what allows you to maintain your funds on the blockchain. They'll have the responsibility of maintaining these keys for their clients and offering crypto custodial and trading services. So for the naysayers, for those that you've talked to that don't think the wave's coming, this is a proof for them. It's a nail in the coffin. And it looks like the world is going to continue to move towards de-dollarization, de-globalization, and hyper-Bitcoinization. So, we'll continue going forward. This is the most recent news as of August 14th, 2020. I hope you enjoyed this news update. If you would like to get my free weekly emails with these weekly news updates and also other Bitcoin information, tips, tricks, and education, you can subscribe for free at adoptbitcoin.com. That's ADOBT bitcoin.com. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. Have a wonderful weekend. And take care, y'all. Love you.